I'd like to gavel in our regularly scheduled meeting for November 17, 2014. If you'd all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Here.
Alderman Nguyen.
Here.
Alderman Robertson.
Here.
Alderman Kramer. Alderman Toohey.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
Alderman Bannister.
Here.
Alderman Saunders.
Here.
Thank you. Next item, approval of the agenda for the regular Board of Alderman meeting, November 17, 2014. Any changes? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
We have first and second to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, item 4, consideration and approval of the minutes from the regular Board of Aldermen meeting from October 20th, 2014. Any changes?
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted, Your Honor.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Had a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next item, the next item on the presentation by Jim Leahy, we're actually going to save that till our next meeting when we do our budget presentation. So we'll skip that this evening. We have a number of public hearings this evening. We have a public hearing that we continued from our last meeting for changes to the sign code. We're going to keep that on hold, and we'll open it up again at the next meeting. P&Z has not had their meeting to review that portion of the sign code yet. So next petition is for a site plan conditional use permit for the sale of lawn equipment and to drop-off point repair service for lawn and landscaping equipment, including outdoor display, the business located at 8513 Manchester Road. Justin?
Thank you. Is this on?
Yeah.
The petition is for a conditional use permit and site plan review to operate a sales of lawn and landscaping equipment and drop-off point for repair and service of lawn and landscaping equipment, including outdoor display. The subject parcel is actually 3 parcels of land, 8515 Manchester Road, 2652 Ruth, and then right below it there's actually a separate parcel that's 2654 Ruth. The 3 of those parcels are all currently zoned for commercial use under the general commercial zoning district, as highlighted in yellow on the screen. So the proposal seeks to take the existing building, utilize it, remove the non-conforming parking area that are located on 2652 and 2654 Ruth Avenue, and install a new compliant parking area that would service the proposed use, as well as provide overflow for the existing lawn care facility on the west side of Ruth Avenue. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the proposal several times, in fact. They did recommend approval by a vote of 7-0 of the conditional use permit with 5 conditions. The conditions are that the staff parking area, which is the parking on 2652 Ruth Avenue, be angled and the drive aisle be widened to comply with the city and fire code requirements, that all improvements are to be completed before the occupancy permit is issued, that the drive lane along the rear of the property will be open to the public and not limited to staff-only access, that the boulders on the north side of the easternmost lot will be replaced with trees, and that the ash trees that were originally depicted on the plan along Ruth Avenue be replaced with a different species of tree. And again, the recommendation was for approval with the conditions by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. I'll open up to the public. If anybody has any comments with respect to this conditional use permit, please come forward and give us your name and address.
Mr. Mayor, I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. Counsel John King is here. If anybody has any questions, he'd be able to answer those for you. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Move on to the next conditional use permit for a site plan approval to incorporate additional land area and a building addition at 2827 South Brentwood, 8827, 8823, 8819, and 8815 West Pendleton. Just as clarification with the public, this is the Bomarito Wine building on Brentwood Boulevard and in addition that they're doing. So, Justin.
Thank you. As you stated, the proposed is for an expansion of the existing warehouse distribution center for the Bomarito wines. They have, over the course of the past several years, acquired the 4 properties to the west of their existing warehouse facility, which is at 2827 South Brentwood Boulevard. The 4 parcels along Pendleton were zoned GC, General Commercial District, back in the mid-'80s. And the proposal now seeks to essentially expand the existing conditional use permit for 2827 South Brentwood to cover the 4 parcels along West Pendleton that would then accommodate an expansion that is shown on the site plan that is included with the conditional use permit request. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review the request, and they recommended approval by a vote of 5-2.
Okay. And again, this is a public hearing for a conditional use permit for Bomarito Wines. If anybody would like to address the board, please come forward and give us your name and address. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Open up next public hearing, a petition to amend Chapter 25. Justin.
So the next petition is for to amend Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 8 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances. This pertains to the city's flood hazard regulations. Back in 2009, FEMA started a process widely across Missouri as well as other areas to remap and update the flood insurance study, which then would get incorporated into a new flood insurance rate map. That process got approved for all counties in Missouri except for St. Louis County, which got held up as they went through additional review. They have resolved all of the technical issues, and the new maps are being released. As part of that, FEMA has given the city or all municipalities within St. Louis County until February 4th, 2015 to adopt the new flood insurance study and the new flood insurance map panel numbers. As part of that, they've requested that instead of doing an amendment, they prefer us to adopt the entire chapter or that entire division in its entirety. So that's why you have the entire flood hazard ordinance in front of you this evening.
Okay.
Planning and Zoning Commission did review the request and recommended approval by a vote of 6-1.
Okay, thank you.
And to clarify, this is a mandatory change that come February 5th, if the city of Brentwood does not adopt the new maps, we would be removed from the National Flood Insurance Program.
Okay. Again, this is a public hearing for a change to our zoning code with respect to our flood map. If anybody has any comments, please come forward. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. We have one more, another petition to amend Section 25-260. Justin.
The final public hearing is for an update to the permitted uses within the light industrial district. The request would add the use of church and other houses of worship as a permitted use within the district. This has been proposed. This is the only zoning district that we have that does not currently permit churches in it. And following the RLUIPA federal law, staff is recommending that it be incorporated into the permitted uses so that we don't conflict with federal law. And the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the petition and recommended approval by a vote of 7-0.
Okay. Okay. Again, I'm sorry. This is a public hearing first. If anybody has any comments with respect to this change to our zoning code, please come forward and give us your name. Hearing none, we'll close that public hearing. Alderman Leahy.
I was curious, we have at present no one wishing to do this. We're just trying to get in conformance with federal law.
The church?
Yes.
There is one applicant that has brought it up and questioned. I don't know how serious they are, but they have questioned it, and that's how it came up.
Thank you.
And, can I ask,
Alderman Saunders.
and this is federal law that every type of zoning has to include churches?
Yeah. That basically we have to unless, if we're going to be restrictive of them, we have to do it in the least restrictive means possible. And that we have to have a compelling governmental interest that we need to clearly define on why we are regulating them in that manner.
So industrial district alone isn't enough? I mean, to not want churches in an industrial
Right.
district?
I would say particularly with, if you look at the city of Brentwood's industrial district and the other uses that are permitted in there, that it's not inconsistent with the other uses that are allowed in the industrial district.
Okay, thank you. No comments, and we close that public hearing. Okay, next item, item 7, bids. City Administrator?
Thank you, Mayor. The city issued 2 RFPs, request for proposal, and 1 request for qualification. The first one was for the Brentwood Recreation Complex re-roofing project. We issued bids for the demolition of the existing roof and the installation of a new roof at the Brentwood Community Center. Also, there was an alternate to the bid that would require the installation of a layer of dense deck on the roof. This will provide insulation from hail and extend the life of the roof. There were 7 bids that were submitted, and of those 7, the lowest and best was submitted by Shea Roofing for $676,731 for the base bid and $56,545 for the alternate bid. In terms of checking references, we spoke with our Chiodini Architects and JNS Roofing, and also SM Wilson, who we will be recommending later on under this section, to give reference for Shea Roofing. They do really great work. All 3 have worked with them on different projects in the past. Chiodini Architects and JS Roofing indicate that they're familiar with the subcontractors that will be working on our project. And they are the only one out of all those who submitted a response to our bid that they could complete the project in 30 working days. So the recommendation would be for Shea Roofing in the amount of $673, total amount $733,276, and this also includes the alternate. The second item is for the construction management services for the recreation complex renovation. The purpose of this is to select a firm that will act as a construction manager for the planning and renovation of the recreation complex. They will also serve as the general contractor and be the single point of responsibility for the construction of the entire project. There were a total of 8 responses to the request for proposal. The city selection committee interviewed 4 firms to give a presentation: CPMI, HBD, Lawler Corporation, and SM Wilson. The review was based on general company qualifications, related project experience, the depth of experience that they have on ice rink and recreation facilities, project management plan and key personnel, construction services and systems, and the proposed compensation. The recommendation is for the selection of SM Wilson. They have a wealth of experience with recreation facilities, especially ice rink and municipal projects, notably Kirkwood Recreation Station Ice Rink and their aquatic center, the Creve Coeur Ice Rink repairs, the Mills Ice Rink, and a host of other facilities within the St. Louis County area. They also indicated that they would be soliciting bids for the city in all major categories of the work. They have an exceptional work experience with Chiodini Architects. They've worked with them on different projects for the past 9 years. They stressed during the interview the importance of staying within the budget, helping the city stay within the budget, and experience and expertise in cost control and value engineering. The total cost for this project is $357,410. We believe that they offer the best services for the city. They are not necessarily the lowest, but they offer the best in terms of service and work product. The last item was a request for qualification to engage a consultant to work with the Planning and Zoning Commission to perform a review of the city's comprehensive plan. We received proposals from 7 firms and interviewed 3: Hosiel Levine Associates, PGAV, and Benchmarking Planning. The interview selection was based on a number of criteria that was included in the request for qualification, namely management capabilities, technical capabilities, approach to the project, understanding of the city's objectives, the proposed work schedules, staff to be assigned, their fee and schedule of hourly rates, knowledge of the local situation, ability to communicate, presentation and attitude, and confidence factor. The recommendation is for Hosil Levine Associates at $14,000. They indicate that they will be able to complete the project in 3 months. So when the board gives consideration to this item, if you recall, in the Planning and Development fiscal year 14 budget is $89,000, we would request that you authorize staff to spend this fund out of that line item.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next item, item 8, hearing of any matters of public interest upon any persons present. Please come forward and give us your name and address.
Mayor, Board. Louise Charbonneau, 8833 Madge. I'm here to speak again in favor of Bill 5896 for the reduction in terms for the elected officials and for the city of Brentwood. You have the resolution on later this evening when you have to recommend to the county when the election should be held. I did some research this afternoon. It was this same meeting 4 years ago when that same resolution to tell county we were having an election, and that did impart to them the new term limits that had just been approved by the voters in the November election. So is it make it or break it time for this bill? If it is, I strongly encourage you to please pass this bill. That change was made before the electorate had become fully aware and understanding of the twin tragedies of the misdeeds by our city administrators and our fire department. Change is sometimes a good thing. I sometimes bring you words from the dictionary that maybe you're not familiar with. How about moribund? Sometimes an organization that's too long can become too rigid, think one way, and maybe lose out on creative opportunities. So, and again, had I written the law or the bill, I'd have put in term limits also. But please, I urge you to give other people, maybe give other people a chance, maybe not. Maybe I'm the only dissident in town. We'll see. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to introduction, reading, and passage of bills. We have a motion for the bill number 58. Let me see here. With respect to municipal elections, we do have one more meeting to make that decision. We're waiting for some additional clarification on that, so it will not be brought up tonight. But I do agree with the last comments made. The ordinance for the Children's Slough Street designation, I believe that's still on hold as well. And also the recodification, we will keep that on hold till the next meeting. Well, is there a motion? We had scheduled a meeting, just so the public knows, to have a workshop meeting to go over the codification. We scheduled a meeting and then could not get a quorum, so the meeting was canceled. I do know that Alderman Leahy took the time and went and met with Sullivan Publications, or whatever their new name is now.
Mr. Perry.
Mr. Perry, and went over the issues that he had, but I don't know if the board wants to entertain taking this off hold and working to pass it tonight, or if you just want to maybe try to schedule one more workshop between now and the next meeting.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to remove Bill 5904 from hold.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have first and second. This is to remove bill number 5912 from hold. Roll call.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Excuse me, which bill is it? No,
Yeah.
oh, not 4 or 12?
5904.
No, 012. Wait a minute.
I think his motion was 04.
No, 04 is the Slow Street. It's
That
5912.
was the motion, though.
It's 5912.
If I may amend the motion,
All right.
I would like the board to consider the updating of the codification, so 5912 to come off hold.
Is there a
please.
second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Manister.
No.
Alderman Saunders.
No.
Okay. Okay, we've been working on this process for literally over 4 years now, so is there, oh, well, okay, we need a motion for first and second reading. Do we have any readings of that bill?
I don't believe we did, Your Honor.
We'll just do them over. Can I have a motion for first and second reading as a bill number 5919 will remain on hold as well. That's a sign code.
Yep.
So if I get a motion for first and second readings of bill number 5912, 5923, 5924, 5925, 59,
Your Honor, if I may,
yes.
I would like the board to please consider Bill 5927 in executive
We
session.
will do it. Can we do first and second reading first? When we get to that, we'll do that. I'll take
Oh,
care of
okay, you're gonna, okay, as long as we can do it in executive, because I have questions.
I'm not going
on
to
this.
repeat these numbers again.
Okay,
So, all
Can I-
right.
I apologize.
5925,
There was no discussion on taking it off hold, and I didn't get to have any discussion. I was given the opportunity to discuss with Mike Perry, and I had responded to the email that I thought that the discussions were discussions that we would have at the board level as to whether or not we think it should or shouldn't go into the code. And so I didn't realize, Alderman Leahy, that you wanted to forego the workshop. And so I did not go through my terms with Mike Perry. Do you want to go through all those tonight? I just wanted to make sure. I thought we were still going to have a workshop. But I'm fine with that.
well, first of all, to continue, first and second readings of bills number 5957, 5928, 5929, 5930, 5931, 5932. This is for first and second readings only. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Opposed.
Okay. And with respect to your comments, we, again, more than a year ago when we had meetings on this, we had asked the aldermen to submit any questions and concerns they had in writing to staff so that they could be prepared to answer questions. We brought that up again at the last meeting. We had a workshop meeting that was scheduled. We couldn't get a quorum. And, I don't know that the board wants to sit here and take an hour or so going through the comments that you have. I think there was plenty of opportunity to do that in subcommittee and then at these other opportunities along the way. And again, the offer was made to meet with Mr. Perry to go over those concerns that you might have to the entire board, as far as I'm aware. So it's up to the board whether you want to have the discussion or somebody wants to make a motion and call for the question and move forward.
First the readings, right?
Well, we'd have to do the reading, I'm just saying, so.
Right.
So with that, if we can have first reading of bill number 5912.
Yes.
So there needs to be a motion. We don't have a first and a second for
For the readings.
just,
Yeah.
what we had is to remove it from on
No,
hold.
I did.
Oh,
We
you
just
did?
No, we made the motion to remove it from the hold.
Hold.
But when you said the numbers for the reading, they didn't actually make the motion. I don't have
Oh,
a
I'm
first-
sorry.
don't
I
have
asked for a
first and
motion.
second.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a motion for first, second readings?
Motion to do the readings on first and second.
And, well, yeah, we did, because we had a roll call vote, and
No,
Alderwoman
that
Saunders
was,
said no.
that was to pull the one bill off hold to bring it up.
We didn't have that vote.
We
Okay,
had that vote, but we did not have the motions for the bill readings.
if you say so. Okay. First and second reading, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Sorry for the confusion. First reading of bill number 5912.
First reading Bill Number 5912 by title only, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code of ordinances of the City of Brentwood, establishing the same, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, except as herein expressly provided, providing for the manner of amending such code of ordinances, providing penalty for the violation thereof, and providing when this ordinance shall become effective.
Okay. Any comments? Alderwoman Saunders?
Well, like I said, I wish I would have known ahead of time that we weren't going to move forward with a workshop. That would have been a nice heads up. I need to grab my large book out of my car. But one thing we definitely need to talk about is the sidewalk. In the new code, the sidewalk restriction is even more restrictive than what the current code is. So it states that the residents are responsible for the sidewalks in front of their home, and it also provides a means by which they, the city can, if within 30 days, they can cite you if you don't repair the code. And we had brought this up in Ways and Means, and we're hoping to actually continue with the current practice whereby the city takes care of the sidewalks. At Ways and Means, my option was just to remove the sidewalks from the code. That way, there's no real way to know who owns the codes unless you can go back and look at, own the sidewalks, excuse me, unless you can go back and look at all the easements. Because I had asked in that example, as for instance, with the easements for Litzinger Road, where we purchased people's property in order to put a sidewalk on it, those were permanent easements. So if we're going to go ahead and put a sidewalk there, how then can we tell the resident that they're responsible for that sidewalk? In the new code, the sidewalk is, it's much more restrictive.
Well, it's my understanding that it's always been the homeowner's responsibility, but the city has always maintained that if it was an act of God, or if we were redoing a street that did damage, tree roots, especially city trees, that we always took care of repairing the sidewalks. In doing so, or when we're doing a street project and we're there, and if a whole block of sidewalks needed to be repaired at that time, then the city took it upon themselves to do it. I think the fallback is that it is technically the owner's responsibility. Just like when a new subdivision is built, they require the subdivision to put in sidewalks, and it's a homeowner's responsibility. But again, the city has the option, as a policy that we've done for as long as I can remember, we've maintained those, again, in those instances where it's an act of God or damage caused by a storm or something along those lines. But it's always been the homeowner's responsibility.
But we've been over this where we're not following our code, and
well, then
So
you could set the
Alderman
code, and then
Leahy
you can
is
make
the
it a
one-
policy that the city takes care of it in these certain situations, and then we can move forward.
I would at least propose that we keep the sidewalk definition in the code the way it is in our current code, as opposed to the more restrictive one in the codified code. It's much more restrictive. And I don't understand why the sidewalk cannot just be left out of the code.
You need to have some regulations in there. Certain situations in commercial areas, the commercial property owners, we treat differently than in those situations than we do the residents of the city of Brentwood.
Okay. And then also, I guess it's on page 501, and draft review is page 20. We adopted how the Planning and Zoning Committee is formed according to state statute, but the sentence, "All citizen members of the commission shall serve without compensation," the Mike Perry had brought that forward as state statute, and then in the draft review, the city crossed that line out, and I wanted to know thoughts on that.
Well, again, as long as I can remember, I think the Ways and Means, our Planning and Zoning members are paid $100 per meeting. That's what our code's been.
But, Your Honor,
Right. I know.
Alderman Saunders is correct. If you pass this code as it stands now, your Planning and Zoning Commission gets no compensation.
Well, I think they took it out.
No,
We
they
have
took it
not
out.
fixed it.
Yeah,
We
no,
have-
it's out of that code, Andy. It's not in the code.
It's out of the new one?
Yes, it's lined through. And I just
Ah,
want to know
okay.
when that's lined through in state statute. I mean, the entire statute for that section is put in the new code, except for the sentence of the state's, the section, Mike Perry had put in the sentence that said, "All citizen members of the commission shall serve without compensation." But staff or Attorney Albright, I'm not certain who, but lined out.
We
And
were
so-
trying to make it to be in compliance with our practice, because they do receive compensation.
Okay, but that's permissible, the state statute says no, but it is permissible? The wording is from the state statute. It's 89.320 or something. I wish I,
I'd have to look at the specific statute. I'm not sure exactly how the statute's worded.
okay, let me see if it's in the draft review, page 20.
I'm not aware that the statute prohibits compensation.
The way it was originally presented, it does. Now, the question was, did Mr. Perry bring it to us correctly? And staff
He did.
updated it to reflect current
That's
Brentwood
exactly what we did.
Yeah, Brentwood practice. So the question on the table is Brentwood practice, which is contrary to state statute, acceptable? Or do we have to pass it with the state statute because that's the most limited? Now,
I would have to look at the specific state statute to answer that for you. I don't know how the statute's
yeah,
worded.
all right.
Well, the code we're adopting, I'm assuming, Frank, that you have reviewed every change that's made as city attorney and that they are all in compliance with state statute.
I have not personally reviewed every change.
Then it's not
Most-
acceptable to me that we adopt this code.
Well, you have a right to vote no.
Just comment. It seems like our best practice would be to put something in place. We could put this in place, and then as time goes on, we can make adjustments if you find issues that are wrong with state statute. But some of the stuff's in the minutia. I mean,
We just
whether or
rec-
not they get $100 a meeting just seems pretty trivial.
We just
hold
received
the
a
meeting.
poor audit for violating state statutes. And, you know, I was speaking with the municipal attorney, and he said, if we don't want to go through these changes, if the city doesn't want to go through the changes and bring them up through committee, really, you may as well vacate your seat as an elected official, because this is our job. We're the legislative body. And the responsibility is of the city attorney to make sure. I'm going back and forth. I'm not an attorney. I don't claim to be an attorney. But I see these statutes, and the last thing I want to do is repeat what just happened. And that same logic goes to, as I said before, well, the amendments that were just on this past ballot, why don't we just pass them all? And then later, if we decide we don't like the law, we'll change it later.
Well, it would've
Problem
been-
is it is law as soon as we adopt it.
And it would have been great if a year ago, when we asked that we submit these things in writing, that you had submitted that to writing so that we could review that and have clarification for you.
A year ago, I was told that we were going to meet by chapter on the changes, and I have a schedule that I could pull from my notes back at home that showed how we were going to break down the chapters and that we were going to meet and discuss those changes.
That wasn't discussed at this meeting.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, if
That
you're
may have
comfortable
been your meeting at
adopting
Ways and
it.
Means, but you guys opted not to do it then, right?
No, it was not a Ways and Means, actually, because if you wanted to do it by committee, the appropriate sections should have gone to the appropriate committee. Public Works items should have gone to Public Works, Ways and Means to Ways and Means, and public safety items should have gone to that committee.
Okay.
But we decided we wanted to do it at the board level because that's where the decisions are going to be made. I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, this is one of the questions I have. It's not minutia, it's pretty important. And then also, if we get into the library section, it says that the library board gets to make any decisions regarding their building without any approval from the Board of Aldermen. And I don't agree with that because, again, the library is still underneath us. It's a component unit, is what it's called in Richmond Heights. But if we set the tax rate, and if we do any of their books, they are still part of us. We appoint them, we give them a favorable rate, we allow them to share in on our employee benefits, and yet we're going to, in this new code, give them decisions, and we have no input in it. And I don't feel like that.
And again, you have a right to vote your opinion when we vote on those matters.
Okay. Well, then, should I guess I
So,
make a motion?
I guess,
Do
what
you wanna
would the
leave
board like to
planning
do with
and
this bill this
zoning?
evening? Do we want to have second reading?
No, Your Honor.
Alderman Lee?
If I may, thank you. Your Honor, I'm in agreement with Alderman Saunders. There are issues in the new revised code. We've tried for a couple of years to do it one way, and we never got it off the ground. I would like to propose to the board that we go ahead and pass this new code and get it in line. And I would like to further make the motion that on the Ways and Means monthly meetings, that we add a section on the agenda for the Ways and Means meeting to literally look at specific issues that come up and make recommendations to the Board of Aldermen for potential ordinances to rectify some misgivings in all of this. Yes, I did get to meet with Mr. Perry and Mrs. Akande. We got to work through a lot of the issues that I had, that I'm happier with what's there, but there are some things in this code that do need to be addressed because Brentwood practice does not comply with what we're doing in this new one. And I'd like to at least get it rectified. I don't think it's proper for an alderman to consistently go to the city attorney saying, I want an ordinance drafted to change this, change that, change that. So I'd like it to be done in a regular Ways and Means meeting agenda item. Would that be permissible?
Well, actually, I would say that if there's changes need to be made from a Public Works standpoint, then any of the sidewalks, those types of issues would go to the Public Works Committee for their review and recommendation to the full board. I mean, those are the processes we have. Public safety, those items need to go to the Public Safety Committee and then discuss and forward it to the board for action.
My problem is for 3 years, we haven't done any of that.
Well-
And that's what's frustrating. And I did put everything in writing.
I know you did. You were the only one, right?
Excuse me, mine is in writing. I just simply misunderstood the way that we were going to go about reviewing this. I mean,
I'm
Mayor
just
Kelly,
saying.
we agreed that we were going to come up chapter by chapter. We started with planning and zoning, and we didn't get any further in an hour, and then everything was tabled. And now you want to bring it forward and you want to adopt it as a new document, regardless of whether we've vetted the changes that are in there or not. I disagree. As you said, I'm entitled to my opinion. I disagree, and I will not vote for it. I don't feel comfortable voting for something that may be against state statute.
Okay, second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5912 by title only, an ordinance adopting and enacting a new code of ordinances of the City of Brentwood, establishing the same, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, except as herein expressly provided, providing for the manner of amending such code of ordinances, providing penalty for the violation thereof, and providing when this ordinance shall become effective.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Your Honor, I move for adoption of Bill 5912.
Second.
Motion was made by Alderman Robinson, second by Alderman Toohey. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robinson?
Yes.
Alderman Toohey?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Bannister?
No.
Alderman Saunders?
No.
Bill number 5912 is now ordinance number 4581.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, 45 what?
81.
Thank you.
First reading of Bill number 5923.
First reading Bill Number 5923 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the City of Brentwood, Missouri with Shea Roofing, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Again, this is for the new roof. Any questions? Alderman Leahy?
The alternate bid brings in the, I can't think of the name of the term of the material.
Dense deck.
By using this material, what is the extended life that we're promising by using it?
It's a 25-year warranty, but go ahead.
Well, that's warranty. I want to know how it extends and how it helps us.
Chris Cudini with Cudini Architects. It doesn't extend the warranty. What it is it's hail protection.
Okay.
It's a glass fiber face gypsum board that'll go on top of the normal roofing system. So it doesn't increase the warranty, but it's an assurance against hail damage.
So it takes the beating of the thing.
Right.
Now-
The insulation's too soft, so when the hail hits the membrane, it kind of dimples it. But with this material underneath it, it won't dimple.
When I dimple, freeze and thaw, am I going to end up with ice and stuff that's going to crack
No,
through this?
This will not dimple.
Okay, so this is protecting my concrete layer underneath, and I think there's a layer between the concrete
Yeah, we've
and
got
this?
concrete, and then we have the insulation. Then you have the dense deck, that's the hail protection. Then you have your roofing membrane.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That was the question.
Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5923 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the City of Brentwood, Missouri with Shea Roofing, Inc., and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Second question, if I may, Your Honor.
Alderman Leahy?
in bringing in and approving both the roof and the alternate material coming in, are we raising our $3.9 million bond issues up higher because we're now going outside our projected? Or is this in the code or in the budget that this cost would be absorbed inside what we figured for the budget?
Well, the total cost of the project has gone up, and we will be addressing that once we get to item number 5925.
Okay.
This portion, we're actually paying for right out of the regular funds of the budget, or
Cash
city
fund.
funds right now, not out of the bond issue.
Okay. But my question being, is what
It
we're
is increasing,
expending
yes.
has been set aside that we've got it as a cover in the way of the covered for the cost now versus having to do a budget amendment in order to adjust to cover this expenditure?
Yes.
Well, the city would cash fund this part of it, so it is in the budget for fiscal year 14.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion, please?
Motion to perfect Bill 5923 into ordinance form, Your Honor.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5923 is now ordinance number 4582.
Thank you. First reading of bill number 5924, please.
First reading Bill Number 5924 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, with S.M. Wilson and Company, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
This again is for the construction manager for the rec center project. Any questions? Alderman Leahy?
I'll ask the same question because I want to make sure. This additional cost is in the 2015 budget and covered under the COP anticipation? Or is this something beyond what we had originally budgeted?
This would be covered under the initial fiscal year 14.
Under the
Budget.
14 budget? Okay.
We're going to get to the total of the next bill.
Your Honor,
No, I
question,
understand.
my
No,
question
no,
is
no.
I want to make sure that we do not end up spending far more than what we've allotted.
Okay.
And I do know that we keep raising what we think this cost is going to be higher and higher, that eventually we do have to figure out that we want to pay for it. I'm trying to prevent having to do budget amendments at the 12th hour to shift money around to make sure that we cover our bills.
The next presentation will be the final numbers on the rec center as we move forward, so, because it'll be for the issuance of the COPs. And it has gone up, there's
Yes.
no doubt. So, okay. So second reading, please.
Second reading Bill Number 5924 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute an agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, with S.M. Wilson and Company, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. We have a motion, please?
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. We have first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5924 is now ordinance number 4583.
Okay, thank you. First reading of bill number 5925.
First reading Bill Number 5925 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the city of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into a lease purchase transaction, the proceeds of which will be used to pay the cost of capital improvements and refunding the city's outstanding certificates of participation, Series 2003, costs related thereto, and authorizing the execution of certain documents and actions in connection therewith.
Okay. Again, this is for the COPs for the rec center improvements, as well as reissuance or refinancing of our existing COPs to reduce the interest rate, which will save us about $50,000 over the life of those bonds, our existing ones. And so, Paula, how do you want to handle the presentation?
Chris will be
Chris, we
presenting.
do have the final numbers. Again, as we stated a couple meetings ago, the longer we wait, the costs keep going up, our codes keep changing, and adding additional requirements. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you.
Very quickly, an update of where we are on the project. We're on schedule for a fall 2015 opening. The Chiodini team has done their field investigation and everything on the project to date. We've finished our schematic design documents, and a schematic estimate has been submitted by Cooper Construction Estimating. The roof replacement bid, we've just gone through, and we're getting ready to release our design development documents to the construction estimator at this point. I think just a quick reminder of who is on our team for the project. We do have a roof consultant, so that is who helped us specify, investigate existing conditions and everything for the roof. And Cooper Construction Estimating is on our team, and we'll be doing estimates from schematic design through construction document completion. Slide. Quickly, the estimates that we presented in August, we had the GBA construction estimate from their assessment that was $2.9 million. We presented a base scope estimate that we increased that cost to $4.5 million in August, and that figure does not include A&E or CMA fees. The schematic design base scope, in comparison to the scope that we presented in August, compared to the October estimate that we received, is actually about $100,000 below our schematic, our base scope estimate. The items that we've encountered and found in our investigations, and some recommendations that we have that have increased the cost, are there's an increased area of structural slab replacement that needs to be done that's increasing the cost by about $400,000. And these 5 items that I have in white don't include any overhead profit general conditions. These are straight line items. The ADA interior improvement scope has increased. The recommendation for the ice refrigeration system, our recommendation is increasing the cost by $300,000. The mechanical system that we're recommending is an increased cost of $125,000. And other building code requirements are increasing the cost of $263,000. So we're looking at a delta of about just under $1.5 million for the project, bringing the schematic design estimate to $6,249,777. Quickly, just to kind of go through each one of those bullet points. The increased area of the structural slab replacement, the original GBA estimate estimated about 3,500 square feet of slab to be replaced. We're over 10,000 square feet from our investigations that needs to be replaced. That's basically the entire upper level, the community center level of the facility. That, and I'll show on the second point with the ADA increase, between the structural slab replacement and the ADA scope, it's about a 25% increase in interior demolition, interior finish replacement. And interior finish replacement is one of the areas that we felt the original GB estimate was probably the lightest, that they needed more support there. Therefore, with that demolition, we've got increased electrical system that we have to replace, fire alarm system. You've got conduits, plugs, switches that could have remained but are going to have to be replaced. And the existing slab removal requires the removal of the existing exterior window system as a means of ingress to the building. The next slide gives you an idea of the differences in scope. The top image is the 3,500 square feet that GBA estimated to be removed. The bottom image in pink is the estimated 10,300 square feet that we're saying needs to be removed. Now, we are in the process. The field investigation with ground penetrating radar has been completed, but we don't have the report on that. That'll be one of the things that'll indicate a little bit more detail exactly what the scope would be for the project. So this is a conservative figure for looking at removing that entire slab. I think quickly this diagram shows that structurally everything on the building, all the walls, structural system are on piers drilled 16 to 20 feet deep. There's no subsidence in the structural system. It's just in the slabs in the community center area. We're not quite sure why it wasn't originally constructed as a structural slab system, which is what we're proposing to go back in the facility. This slide shows the darker green areas are where there's less subsidence, and that's because the perimeter of these slabs was tied to a structural foundation system. So the majority of the settlement that we're seeing is really along the corridor in between the community rooms. This shows quickly some of the photographs where you've got in some areas of 3/4 of an inch settlement. You can see from one of the community rooms under the wall and see Eric's carpet in his office. We're also experiencing it, some areas it's not at the floor, some areas you can see the settlement in the structural tees where the partition is dropped up to a half an inch. Item number 2, based on the ADA code requirements for locker rooms and restrooms, especially on the rink side, that's where we really encountered when we adjusted those locker rooms and restrooms to accommodate ADA codes. It impacted more of the offices, skate rental and everything. So again, between ADA improvements and the slab subsidence, we're looking at about a 25% increase in scope of the work, renovation work on the project. The yellow area, it's difficult to see here, but that shows the impact of the ADA improvements and some of the code improvements for restrooms and things. The third bullet point is the ice rink refrigeration system. Working with KJWW and their rink consultant, it's being recommended that we use an ammonia refrigeration system, which is about a $300,000 premium. Ammonia refrigeration systems are used on 90% of the rinks that are currently built. One of the reasons for that is the other alternative is a hydrofluorocarbon HFC system. HFC is currently banned in Europe, so it's kind of following the same path as R22. The equipment doesn't last long, although it's a little cheaper, and we may be seeing that being phased out at an increasing cost. An ammonia system equipment also has a lifetime expectancy of double an HFC system.
Do we have a copy of that document?
I'm not sure.
No, you do not.
No, we do not.
The mechanical system that we're recommending is a VRV system. It's a $125,000 premium, but it offers much higher efficiencies, and it offers more flexible temperature control. So every community room would have a temperature control rather than the east side of the building having one and the west side of the building having one. This system should pay back within 3 years is what we're seeing on those systems. Building code requirements. Prior to this estimate, or the GVA estimate, City of Brentwood had not adopted 2009 IBC yet. We're seeing about a $230,000 impact from that adoption. The energy code will require the replacement of the exterior windows. Right now it's a single pane, hollow metal, non-thermally broken system. We're looking going back with a 1-inch insulated low E glass, thermally broken frames. The window systems on the interior as well between the rink and some of the community rooms are just 1/4-inch glass, and we've all been in those and been cold during the meeting, so we're replacing those as well. Roof-mounted mechanical equipment is required to be screened per the municipal code. The ADA code will require a wheelchair lift to be installed at the rink bleacher area, and the building code requirements today have increased the number of stalls in the restroom. Really, we're adding 1 stall to each of the restroom facilities in the building. We've put together kind of a must-do list that we see for recommendations. Remediating the slab, that condition is not going to get any better. Building code, energy code, and ADA code compliance, we believe needs to be done. And the building systems are really obsolete. There's no electrical, mechanical parts available for the equipment. And so a planned replacement versus a maintenance replacement and downtime in an emergency situation, we're recommending the replacement. Reduce maintenance costs, higher energy efficiencies. On the should-do list, we've put the mechanical system going with the VRV system, which was a $125,000 premium. The ice rink refrigeration system, replacement with an ammonia system. The DENS deck that you've approved for the roofing system was also a recommendation. There's a couple of items that we classified as nice to do. Replacement of the dasher board system is an additional cost of $185,000. That's offset a little bit by $53,900 for the replacement or reinstalling the existing system. There's also a little bit of benefit in there's a market for the resale of the board systems, but again, that's a nice to do. And then the
boards for the rink, a dasher board?
Dasher board, the boards around the rink system. And then replacement of the scoreboard is a $19,000 option as well that we've put on there. And really, given that amount of work, we're looking at starting with the shell of the building, which we believe is structurally sound. And the entire interior and some of the exterior renovations that we're proposing, you'll really end up with a completely new recreation center when we're done.
Can I ask?
Alderman Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor Kelly. Can I ask what the exterior of the building, what the drawing is for it to look like?
We haven't gotten that far yet, but we are, I believe the survey is going to happen this week, but most of the renovations that we're anticipating, besides the window systems being replaced, all the copings around the top of the building are going to be replaced as part of the roofing project. The majority of it, the renovations we see happening near the plaza area, the entry to the rink and things, but we haven't begun that yet.
And what are we anticipating for that?
I don't know.
What
We
are
had some very,
budgeting for that?
for site areas, we've got just over $100,000 for that. Some of that'll fall into the ADA budget as well. And that's part of the problem with ADA and some of the increased interior demolition and renovation that we're facing. It's hard to separate those numbers out at this point.
So are we just seeing this more as a bump out, one story, just kind of maybe making it more,
I think we're looking at dressing up the entry points to the building. Yeah.
just the entry
Yeah.
points?
And really,
Not
I'm
additional story?
I'm
The
just-
GBA at one point had,
No, there's no additional story. This is really a renovation of the existing 41,000 square feet that's there.
okay, could we get a copy of that document too, please?
We'll make it available to the board.
Alderman Lay.
Couple of questions if I can, Mr. Chiodini. While we're tearing things out, the sound systems inside the meeting room and in the ice skating rink, are those being
That
incorporated?
is all being replaced.
And I believe we are upgrading and putting in sprinkler systems
Yes,
throughout the
throughout
whole
the
building to become fire code with the
Except over the
209.
rink, everywhere else will be
Okay,
sprinklered.
to work it with. I'm going to call upon your opinion, not because you're our consultant arrangement, but just your opinion. You're looking at spending $6.2 million to tear down and basically work from the shell and put it back together again. Reasonable expenditure, or should I just go ahead and level the whole thing and start from scratch? I'm afraid you're going to tear up the slabs and find out you got gaping holes underneath it with the Brentwood caverns and stuff that you all are going to come back to us and say it's going to be tough to pour a slab back on top of it.
Yeah, well, we're looking at the piering system that's in the existing building. Again, that structural system is sound. There's been no settlement of the structure itself.
Correct.
The slabs that we're going back in with are going to be micropiled to the same extent that the building structure is. So they will be structural slabs bearing on bedrock in the building. To say, we're looking at over double that cost for a new facility, just on a square footage basis. So that's only for the building. That doesn't
Okay.
include site, that wouldn't include site utilities, site conditions. So that's really just for a 41,000 square foot building, same uses that you have there.
The reason for the question is I'm comparing what this city wants to do with the rec center with what we did with rebuilding and building up a brand-new fire department.
Right.
Granted, we went 2 stories versus the expanded shape that you've got over there at the rec center. But I guess I just want to make sure we are doing the most economically feasible, that the citizens get the best bang for their buck for where we're going to spend it.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Alderman Saunders.
How much of the $6 million is for refunding the bonds, and how much is actually going to the construction
Well,
project?
the total issuance of the bonds will be no more than $6 million. In terms of, in your packet, there was a spreadsheet that provided a breakdown of what the bond proceeds would be. That's $4.7 million. We have applied for a grant through the Missouri Parks Commission for $370,000. And then when this was initially presented several months ago, the recommendation was that the city would cash fund $1.3 million of that, but since the cost has gone up, the recommendation is that we would cash fund $2 million of that. During the Ways and Means budget presentation for fiscal year 15, we talked about the fund balance for the 4 different funds. And if you recall, we have exceeded the requirement for the fund balance for capital reserve. It says equal to 5% of the value of the related capital assets excluding machinery and equipment. For the end of fiscal year 14, we have a projected fund balance of $2.7 million. And then in fiscal year 15, that dropped to $1.9 million because we anticipated that we would use $1 million of that. So with the cost going up, we would recommend to use an additional $1 million. Also, with that increase, the debt service is also increasing by $159,941, and that will increase every year for the next 10 years. So even with that, the city would still be able to continue to meet the requirements of the fund balance policy in the budget.
Okay. But the scope of the project has not changed at all. We just really wanted to update the building, renovate the ice rink. We're not going to add anything additional
No,
to it.
Right.
That's the scope, okay.
Okay.
And then with the funding of the 2003 bonds, will the library still have their portion that they have to pay?
They would still have that.
They'll still have
What this
that?
does, it just reduces the interest for the entire issuance of that bond.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
I think it's more, with certificates of participation, I don't quite understand, you know, the statute says that a board can't burden a future board, and that's why with a lot of projects, you do it with a bond obligation. How is it that certificate of participation allows you to do that without,
Sure.
I know you can do them, but I just meant, when does it cross that line where you're burdening
Thanks, Chris.
a future board? Thank you, Chris.
That's a good question. So a lease obligation is subject to annual appropriation by the board. And so legally, the Board of Aldermen could make a decision not to appropriate and walk away from its obligation at the end of each fiscal year. Now, there are consequences to that, of course. The city would lose the facility, lose control of the facility, and it would impair the city's ability to borrow in the future. But legally, the city could walk away from that obligation, so it does not obligate future boards.
And that's how they get around that statute, basically?
Well,
then?
it's, the Supreme Court has blessed the structure, saying even though, so it does not constitute debt under the Constitution, because theoretically the city, or I mean, not theoretically, the city, if it so chose, could not appropriate funds.
Right. Okay. And is there a limit as to how many of these you can do, or
No.
it's just?
No, I'd say the market is the practical limit as far as, you know, the
Right.
rating agencies and the underwriters, how much debt are they going to underwrite?
Okay.
But there's no legal limit.
And then within this ordinance, it defines project costs, but you don't need to have some kind of an addendum that has the actual costs or anything in here, or?
That's correct. I mean, project costs are any costs associated with this facility that the Board of Aldermen may approve. So the certificate proceeds are going to be held by the bond trustee, and upon approval of the Board of Aldermen of submission of requisitions, the trustee will disperse funds to pay those costs. So it's whatever the board determines.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the other thing is, these bonds will actually be only 10 years, too, so we're paying this down pretty quickly. So, Alderman Lay.
If I may impose on the city administrator, because she had to take the time to help educate me on how the financing would work. Can we get into, if we commit to doing this expenditure, can you educate everybody in the audience how the funding is going to come in so that we can pay back the COPs and work with?
Well, if the city issues this COP, then we would get the bond proceeds to pay it off, and then the city, through the debt service payment, will be making payments toward the total payoff of the COP in 10 years.
Okay. Now, to fund the debt service payoff, we're pulling the parks and stormwater extra money that's coming in because we just finished freeing up 2 of the TIFs.
Right.
So our 2.1 million that we normally have been seeing in the parks and storm is jumping up to about 7 million.
Not
No.
quite that high.
No.
I wish.
There's an additional 400,000 that will be coming in as sales tax revenue into the Parks and Stormwater Fund. So what that does is, even though your fund balance continues to grow, we would still have enough to be able to make the debt payment on this COP. Was that your question?
When you and I spoke to work through the numbers,
We also looked at the total revenue that comes into the Parks and Stormwater Fund. Alderman Leahy was under the impression that we would be robbing Peter, so to speak, to pay Paul, because we're already using some of these funds to pay for the ongoing day-to-day operations of the Parks and Recreation Department. But if you look at the operational cost alone, that's about $1 million. Then when you look at capital investment, that's an additional $2 million. So what this would do is it would limit other park improvements that we would be doing over time, because now we're focusing our efforts on the community center.
Now, where I was heading with all the numbers that you and I discussed with is by indebting ourselves by getting this done. We aren't having to go back and be a little bit more aggressive on sales tax revenues to pull in or potentially raise taxes in order to make this work.
We would not have to do any of
We
that.
have revenue coming
So
because prior planning by the
payoff,
city
exactly,
that got
of
us
the
cash
tips.
to the point that we could make the yearly payments and not have to start
So there's money
sacrificing our
available
budgets.
to invest in infrastructure within the city, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Oh, I have
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry, Alderman Saunders.
Can you tell us approximately when we'll have like the final drawing, the entrance and?
Chris?
I would say probably the middle to the end of December.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5925 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the City of Brentwood, Missouri to enter into a lease purchase transaction, the proceeds of which will be used to pay the cost of capital improvements and refunding the city's outstanding certificates of participation, Series 2003, and costs related thereto, and authorizing the execution of certain documents and actions in connection therewith.
Okay. Do we have a motion, please?
So move.
And second?
Second.
Motion is made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Tui. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5925 is now ordinance number 4584.
Great. Thank you.
Your Honor, that's is 9 years in the working to get this far.
Let me see.
It
Where
is,
do we-
9 years in the working
Yep.
to get this far.
Yeah, and when you
We
brought
didn't
up,
have embezzlement of the
you
11th.
brought up that you might find caves underneath the slabs, and there's no caves underneath there because that's a landfill.
It may have settled. That's why the floors are dropping.
Okay. Actually, if we could postpone the next bill until after we have our executive session. And so if we get first reading Bill 5928, please.
First reading, Bill Number 5928 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a professional service agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, with Houseo Levine Associates, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. So this is for our consultant to take P&Z through the review of our comprehensive plan. Again, this was put out to bid, and staff, after interviewing a number of the applicants, selected this consultant. So, any questions? Alderman Leahy?
In reviewing, all they're going to do is take the comprehensive plan and identify what the city's done since 2006, coming forward as to conforming and trying to
make a
improve.
recommendation on how to move forward. One of the things that I believe they're going to do in this phase too is they're actually going to establish a website where residents can go and keep track of the process as we go through this 3-month process. So I think that was one of the things that we
That's
thought was
correct.
unique and would be a good thing to communicate to the public. Yeah, but it's primarily a review process of the existing comprehensive plan to determine our processes going forward.
And we're spending $14,000 to accomplish this
Right.
task.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
Don't they also
I'm
get
sorry.
to give an opinion of as far as how well we've complied with the prior plan? Yeah, it's kind of giving the city a grade and a metric to determine if we've followed it in the past. Isn't that correct?
I think the focus, instead of, going through basically a check mark, have we done A, have we done B, C, D, is to take a little bit more high level of an approach. A lot of the goals, a lot of the policies and objectives aren't a simple check mark. They're a little bit more abstract to them. So part of the review process is going to be looking at, maintaining community character, building a sense of identity, and looking at what types of demographic shifts and what types of changes have happened since 2006 that may change those overarching goals, or if the goal is still in place, but the objectives that are on there may have shifted, starting to identify those areas where we would want to look at. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Oh.
Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill number 5928 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to enter into and execute a professional service agreement on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri with House Seal Levine Associates and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. We have a motion, please?
So moved, Your Honor.
And second?
Second.
We have first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5928 is now ordinance number 4585.
Great. Thank you. Next item, bill number 59. First reading, please.
First reading, Bill number 5929 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to A. Bomarito Wines for wholesale sales of a manufactured product to property numbered 2827 South Brentwood Boulevard and 8815, 8819, 8823, and 8827 West Pendleton Avenue, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinance the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any more questions? Alderman Leahy?
Currently, with the Bomarito wine, there is a limitation that the trucks must come off Brentwood Boulevard onto West Pendleton to get in and out of his site. In the layout of the current redesign of the facility, is he going to be coming down Collier, which we currently allow Schnucks to come down as far as their bays, but I didn't see anything in the readings that limits him not having a truck coming in that way?
It would still fall under their prior, and their driveway is still on Pendleton, it's not on Collier, or the entrance. I'm sorry.
There is
Or is there?
There is a western entrance off of Collier.
Okay.
However, one of the issues, if you look at, there's also an additional access point off of Pendleton. And one of the issues they have is somewhat related to that, as they discussed at P&Z, I would say at length, is that in the morning, oftentimes they'll have to basically, they have some of the smaller trucks that are loading at the dock, and they have a larger truck that's sitting on Pendleton waiting. This additional warehouse with the additional bay that's in there, it's not for additional services. It's to get that truck off the road. So I don't know that that's directly what you're asking, but I think what they're trying to accommodate is, I don't believe that they're changing their pattern at all, but rather they're trying to better accommodate within the neighborhood.
Understand, there is a power line at the corner of Collier and West Pendleton that has been taken down once before by trucks not doing what they were supposed to do. If he's going to be using Collier, I don't think it's going to be feasible for the city to try to prevent him, but I think that power line needs to be raised so it does not take out the neighborhood.
Okay.
So if we could make that a condition so that he does get access to come down from Brentwood Boulevard through to West Pendleton or come down Manchester through Collier, I don't think I'm opposed to that, but that power line's going to have to be addressed before we get something to snap on it.
And the applicant is here, and they might be better. Do you want to?
I believe the traffic restriction on Collier is still going to stand, right?
The current traffic restriction is only towards Schnucks that says they can have a truck only come down to their bay. The current conditional use permit for Bomarito has them only coming in from West Pendleton.
Right, that stands. Right?
Well, but you've got a western entrance off of Collier. Why did you put a western entrance if you're not going to let me have a truck through there?
That's not for delivery trucks, is it, Justin?
I believe that is to service the parking lot. But again, I would defer to the applicant if you want to get it on the record of what they're proposing to use it for. I think it would be reasonable.
If the applicant could come forward and maybe try to resolve this issue.
Hi, Matt Wolf with Wolf Architecture and Design. The alley that you're talking about off the parking, is that what you're referring to?
Coming off Collier.
Right. The hope is that if a truck comes in, it can come into that and not go onto the main street there. So it keeps it off the street. But we also have 2 docks so that that truck can pull up and then back into the dock, and then it'll be sitting there if it gets there early, so it's away from traffic.
So your usage is that you would like access off of Collier to come in with.
We
Currently,
have 3 ways now to get in as opposed to
the one,
before.
yes. And what I'm trying to do is establish that what you have in your plans will be acceptable to the city arrangement. Currently, our limitation on the conditional use permit only allows you to come in from West Pendleton to that one south side building.
Correct.
If you're looking to come into Collier, I'm willing to entertain allowing that to happen, but I do have a power line that could create a problem that I need it raised so that your trucks do not create that problem.
Okay, we'll do whatever you need us to do to make that work.
Well,
So,
now,
right.
my other alderman is correct that leave it the way it's written, you can't bring a truck into Collier.
Actually, I would ask for clarification. I think that's for their existing site plan of their existing building, and if the new conditional use permit, if the restriction isn't in there, they could use Collier for this.
I would agree.
Right.
Thus, yes, and it's not there, thus I do anticipate trucks coming down Collier. Now, further, I anticipate a truck coming down Collier and maybe leaving out of West Pendleton, or vice versa, coming in West Pendleton to get onto Collier and heading out to Manchester. I'm not opposed to that. I am opposed to a power line being brought down that has come down once before because a truck hit it by mistake. I would like to put in a thing that it gets looked at and be raised so that we don't have a problem. I don't know who picks up the cost of doing that, but if we can at least have it evaluated before we snap one.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll have staff review that, if that's okay. We'll make sure that it's appropriate.
That would help the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope. Did we have second reading?
One reading.
No, we didn't, Your Honor.
Okay, second reading, please.
Second reading, bill number 5929 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to A. Bomarito Wines for wholesale sales of a manufactured product of property number 2827 South Brentwood Boulevard and 8815, 8819, 8823, and 8827 West Pendleton Avenue, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Lay?
Would like to make a motion to perfect Bill 5929 into ordinance form with the power line being evaluated and height altered so that we do not have truck problems going through that corner.
And second?
Second.
Okay. Alderman Harper?
But what if the evaluation says that the power line doesn't need to be elevated? Part of your motion is to raise the power line.
To make sure it complies with.
Complies.
Yeah, how's
The
that?
trick is we have had a truck, and I want to say the truck that caused the problem was a Schnucks truck that came in, and instead of going out to Manchester, came down and around by mistake, and he took the line down, never realizing that he had caught it.
Was it power or was it a cable line?
It was a cable line.
Well, that's, I mean, I think it was cable, and sometimes they just install those too low as well.
Yeah, and I just want to avoid the problem before we get into it.
Because the power can go out, but don't lose my cable.
You don't have any cable if your power goes out.
All right. So we had a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper.
I'm sorry, point of order. Motion was made to perfect it as amended.
Right. And we had somebody first and second.
Okay.
Right. Okay, roll call.
Alderman Harper.
Still yes.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson.
Yes.
Alderman Tui.
Yes.
Alderman Leahy.
Yes.
Alderman Bannister.
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders.
Yes.
Bill number 5929 is now ordinance number 4586.
Your Honor, if I may.
Alderman Lee.
Mr. Bomarito, would like to extend a great appreciation. I know this project you've been working on very, very diligently, and I do know that you took your time to allow other things to get out of the way so that we could deal with this one. So I thank you for taking the time to work with us. Yes, it was a Schnucks truck. It was a Schnucks truck. It was not one of yours.
Sorry about that, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. First reading of Bill number 5931, please.
5930, Your Honor.
Or 30, I'm sorry, yes.
First reading Bill number 5930 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to Lawn Care Equipment Company, Inc. for landscaping, sales, and repair, including outdoor display of property numbered 8513 Manchester Road, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any questions? Actually, I was going to wait on this because Phil said he wanted to stay till the end of the meeting, right, Phil?
I move to.
Any question? Second reading, please.
Second reading Bill number 5930 by title only, an ordinance granting approval of a site development plan and conditional use permit to Lawn Care Equipment Company, Inc. for landscaping, sales, and repair, including outdoor display of property numbered 8513 Manchester Road, which permits under the provisions of Chapter 25 of the Brentwood Code of Ordinances the development of that site, providing the conditions of such development, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any questions?
Motion to perfect Bill 5930 into ordinance form, Your Honor.
And second?
Second.
First and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5930 is now ordinance number 4587.
Thank you. First reading of Bill number 5931, please.
First reading Bill number 5931 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-260 as it relates to permitted uses, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Leahy.
I guess I'm going to come to Justin with the question. By allowing the church in the light industrial areas, can the city continue to put the restriction that the church would be with non-residential occupancy permit in the way of a living quarters? Or is that in violation of federal law? We currently have that requirement.
So if I'm understanding the question, so if you had a church go into a light industrial district and they wanted to have a residence for a priest or something along those lines, would we run into issues? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I think we'd probably run into issues.
Do we currently have a problem then with the one facility that's right here on Manchester Road?
That one is actually...
Because we did not grant them residential living quarters.
I think that, and I would have to talk with our legal counsel probably in depth on this one for planning and zoning. I think that a living quarters associated with a religious use is going to fall under a term of an accessory use that's customarily found within that type of use, and that unless we have a severe and compelling reason to restrict it or to regulate it, that is the least obtrusive possible, then we would not want to get involved, and we would just consider it a part of the use.
Can I ask you and the city attorney to look at the current facility that we do have with this issue?
Sure.
Because I do have a feeling that if we pass this, we may be asked to amend current conditions.
I believe...
Wait, what is your question? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yes, you're allowing a place of worship in a light industrial court.
Right.
Can you do so with establishing that living conditions in this facility are not allowed to work with? Or otherwise, are we going to start changing industrial carts over to residential areas?
Well, with respect to a religious institution, no. And that's where the federal law comes in, is that if it's a religious institution, you don't have very much control over where they want to go. And that's why we're changing this to comply with, because this is the only zoning district right now that we don't allow it by our code. But if a church wanted to go into those areas and fight us, we would lose.
All right.
And as what Justin is saying is that if the priest or pastor or reverend wants to live there, he's probably going to be able to do that under that religious organization and being their facility.
All right. The city of Brentwood currently has a facility of a religious
Right.
institution down on Manchester,
Right.
where the city established the restriction that no residential conditions would be allowed. We made that part of his conditional use permit.
Okay.
Now, if that be the case, and we're trying to correct our code so that we don't get into these issues that we're fighting, then fix it here. We need to fix that conditional use permit.
Well, that's why I wanted to clarify your question, because that's a lot different than the other clarification.
And I will absolutely look into that property and the conditional use permit.
Thank you.
And talk with the attorney on it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5931 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by amending Section 25-260 as it relates to permitted uses, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Okay. We have a motion, please?
Motion to perfect Bill 5931 into ordinance form.
Alderman Saunders?
Attorney Albrecht, do you recommend us passing this? Is this?
I would. It's really something that the city needs to do.
Okay.
And with respect to one of the structures that was mentioned, that would continue to be a non-conforming use, since it's. I'm assuming you're referring to St. Mary Magdalene.
No.
Okay.
City church down
okay.
At the bottom of the hill.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we
First-
did. You
Roll
had a
call.
first and second.
Who is the second?
Mr. Wynn.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bannister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Bill number 5931 is now ordinance number 4588.
Thank you. First reading, bill number 5932. Alderman Nguyen?
Just a little aside, I met one of the gentlemen down there, and next year they want to join in with us on the day of prayer.
Oh, good.
They're brand new, so I was very pleased that they want to become part of the community.
Great. Good. First reading,
First reading, Bill Number 5932 by title only, an ordinance amending Chapter 25 of the Revised Code of Ordinances of the City of Brentwood, Missouri by deleting Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 8, relating to flood hazard control, enacting in lieu thereof a new Chapter 25, Article 6, Division 8, providing for the current maintenance of this code, providing for the repeal of all conflicting ordinances, and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Your Honor.
Alderman Leahy?
I'll make a motion that the board put this bill on hold because we don't have to pass it till February. The ordinance that I received did not give me a map of the flood areas in particular, and I did not get a chance to get up here and get a copy before the meeting. So if I may ask to put it on hold long enough to look through that map, I do believe that the area down at the old Executive Parkway is going to be incorporated in the flooding area, which may restrict some of the activity that the city may or may not want to do. And I'd like to look at that and have discussion before we pass this. So if I can make that motion, Your Honor.
Is there a second?
I have a question.
Well, we need a second before we discuss
Just
it. Wait.
one clarification, and the mayor saw this. It's got to be close to 1,000 pages of information, just to give you a heads up. It is a pile about this thick.
I was under the impression that we'd be looking at the flood map itself.
There is a digital map available through the county's website. However, the county's website these days is hit or miss.
Right.
So we will do our best to provide you as clear and concise of information as we can.
Then my request to the Board of Aldermen is still if we can put this on hold long enough for me to come up and ask questions and get a further education on the bill. We don't have to pass it till February of 15 to stay current with the requirements. So,
February
Fifth.
4th.
I'll second that.
yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion to put this
Question now?
bill on hold.
Yeah.
Alderwoman Saunders, do you have a question?
The maps, though, like he's saying, the Executive Parkway, they tell us what the map is, right? We have no say in defining the map.
Well, yes is essentially the answer. FEMA has, over the past 4 years, been going through what the federal government considers to be a public process. So if you were to ask them, they would have said that we've had our chance through their public hearings that they've held over, I think, primarily in 2009 period. But yeah, I mean, it's based off of engineering studies. So if you were to disagree with something, the city would be responsible for performing a mapping study that would contradict what the federal government has done.
Okay, because when you presented this, my impression was that you were telling us that this is what they mandate, this is what they tell us.
It is.
That is correct.
It is.
That is
Okay.
correct. And
Okay.
You can
they
review it,
mandate-
but it's
And
not going to
nothing-
change
No,
anything.
no, no, I'm not
Right.
going to review 1,000-page. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. But what you're saying is we could appeal the map if we felt that we had
Not
information.
any longer. That period has been closed.
Okay, that's fine then, so I'm not certain, like, there's nothing you can do to change the map, correct?
I would like to get educated. I
Okay.
have not done
Yeah,
due
so-
diligence on
That's
this
fine.
one.
Okay, that's fine. And then,
Yes.
one other question, though, within this, it doesn't change that definition of substantial damage.
It absolutely does not
I kinda looked.
include that definition.
And that is not in the new code, correct?
That is correct. That is
Yeah,
not.
I think I looked at
Yeah,
that, but I
yeah.
want to make sure it's not in the new code.
That is correct.
Thank
Did you read all those pages, just to make
I,
sure?
I have committed them all to memory.
All right, we had a motion to place this bill on hold. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let me see. Resolution 1021. This is to set our municipal election on April the 7th, 2015. We have a motion to approve the
Motion.
resolution.
Motion to please approve Resolution 1021.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, we're going to,
Question, if I may, Your Honor.
Alderman Leahy?
This does set us up for a four-year election. Assuming something does change between now and
We can
the
Yeah, we
first
said
meeting
that.
in December, we can amend this.
Right,
We won't submit this after that meeting.
exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to put Resolution 1022 on hold until after the executive session. So next item, accounts against the city.
Your Honor, if I may.
Alderman Leahy?
All right. Before us is the warrant list for the month of October, and the bills as of the 17th of November, $145,604.71, of which, according to the warrant list, $14,311.80 is a pass-through. Motion that the board authorize the city to pay its bills.
Second? Any other questions? Alderman Leahy?
All right. On page one of it, we have two orders from Forstel Tire for the same day, for the same 6 tires on 2 different vehicles, but for some reason, we have 2 different amounts. Was there a problem that we're not aware of?
Maybe someone took 15 minutes more.
They were 2 different trucks, 6 tires on each, and they weren't exactly the same. The front tires on one truck were a little different than the other one,
Okay.
just because of the year, one's newer. That's why the price difference.
That's why, but according to this, they were the same. That's why I was asking.
On the detailed bill, you could see where it's a different tire size on the
All right.
front.
Second question, if I may, Bola, on the BJC Healthcare. In the narrative, it tells us that they gave us a grant of 5,100 contributed, but we're passing through 83.
That was to pay for the actual standard physical test,
Yeah.
not the stress test, which is what this is for.
Okay, but the 8344 is a pass-through. Where did that pass through from?
It's being paid through the asset forfeiture funds.
Because of seizures and stuff?
Right.
Okay, so it doesn't really come out of our budget as
No.
much as we're spending some of the free excess cash that came out of police action?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
No other questions, Your Honor.
We had a first and a second to approve the warrant list as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item, reports of committee and department heads. Under the mayor's report, I have nothing this evening. Oh, except the holiday party is scheduled for,
Is that the 10th? Just a minute, I
All
have that here.
The first,
Monday the 10th?
first, 8th, 9, no, it should be the
December 8th?
15th.
December 8th.
8th, oh, okay.
We keep guessing, we had to get it right one of those times, it's only Thursday, so, all right.
December 8th from 5 to 7 at the Brentwood
the rec-
Recreation Center.
Right, okay. Public safety, anything further?
No.
Public Works Committee,
Nothing, Your Honor.
Director of Planning, anything
No
further?
report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ways and Means, not present. Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Saunders.
Yes, I thought we were going to have a presentation by Higbee tonight on the compensation
That
survey.
will be an executive session because it pertains to collective bargaining.
Well, maybe that portion, but I mean, the whole presentation was for the full board. That was done in public at Ways and Means on at this last November meeting.
November
And Linda
10th.
Higbee, in the contract, and we confirmed that she was going to come before the board to do the presentation.
I have not asked her to do that. I was more focused on just the part that pertains to collective bargaining. We can ask her to come back and present that to the entire board.
Right, because Tom had wanted to be here when we made decisions on the compensation survey and also on the budget. So I was wondering if there's a chance he asked to maybe change the date of the meeting in December, the first meeting, because he may not be back.
Alderman Kramer is not certain of when he'll be back.
And our code says that it has to be past our first meeting of December, and it has to be our regularly scheduled meeting instead of a special meeting.
Well, there are exceptions for that, but that's fine.
Well,
I'm not going to argue.
I'm just saying what the code says. so,
Okay,
yeah. So.
Okay, but we did say that there would be a presentation for the compensation survey. I don't understand why it's public one time and then it's not public the next. It
The
doesn't
only
make
part
sense.
that we're emphasizing tonight in executive session pertains to collective bargaining.
So then we'll talk about the rest of it.
You
in
can talk
connection
about
with
it
the
here.
budget?
Under fiscal year 15 budget if you choose. That's why that item is on there. Because my understanding at the last Ways and Means Committee was that the only remaining item for discussion by that committee was in regards to the compensation plan. There were no other questions specific to the budget. Did I misunderstand that?
No, the compensation, though, again, I'll have to go back to the notes and listen to the tape, but because it says in her contract that she'll meet multiple meetings, that she was going to come before us.
I don't
and
think
do
we're questioning that. There's no issue there.
presentation. Okay, but then there are policy decisions that have to be made within that compensation survey, which, she had outlined some of them about minimum and average salaries versus.
Well, can we discuss that when we get to that?
Okay.
Okay. So, nothing else on Ways and Means. City Attorney?
No report, Your Honor.
City Clerk Administrator?
No report, Your Honor.
Excise Commissioner, we have 2 temporary liquor licenses. First one for Immerse by Atlas.
They're scheduled to hold an event at their facility today. It's an educational event, and they've done this multiple times throughout the year. We are encouraging them next year to kind of plan ahead so that we can get approval from the board for 6, 7, how many events that they intend to have throughout the year. The other is for CrossFit 26. They are having what they called as Caveman Paleo Cook-Off, scheduled for
22nd.
the 22nd. And they will be selling drinks. They'll have a beer stand.
Okay. So if I have a motion to approve the 2 temporary liquor licenses.
So moved.
And second?
Second, Your Honor.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Lee opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Library, anything further? No. Municipal League, I will just say from the Missouri Municipal League, just an update, they'll be back in session after the first of the year, and I can tell you it's going to be another year that we need to pay very close attention to what's going on in Jeff City. So, Historical Society?
No, thank you.
Okay. If I can have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I may make a request that we move new business before the executive session?
Okay, that's
Or
fine.
do you anticipate us coming back?
Well, we are going to have to come back for the one bill that we have
work
we're
with.
pending and also the resolution, but if we want to do any unfinished business, if anybody would like to address the Board of Aldermen, please come forward and give us your name and address.
It's me again. Didn't bring this up earlier because I didn't want to slow down the people who were here to get their site plans and everything approved, but I thought perhaps Coach would bring it up. Rock Hill moved already to make the inalienable right to carry the gun. Have we looked at this? Are we going to be required? I don't believe the voters knew what inalienable meant. So we needed somebody to come from Ohio to march people down Market Street with their weapons on their hips and their shoulders. And I thought I'd maybe ask Bola, we'll all close our eyes and raise our hands if we voted no, and she'll be able to do a straw poll. But then
We
I
have
thought
not-
somebody might cheat, so,
It has not even been a topic of conversation. How's that?
okay. And nobody from, like you said, keeping your eye on Jeff City, nobody's, you know, they interviewed Mayor Welch from Webster,
Right.
and it's just unconscionable, and what it's doing to our officers, and it's just,
Right.
okay, thank
Yep,
you.
thank you. Okay.
Yes.
No, it's open or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
But
what I mean.
in order to carry an open weapon, the carrier still must have a concealed weapon permit.
Oh, sure, right.
To work with.
But Andy, you can't go up to him and ask for his permit.
Correct.
Andy,
So-
All right, sorry, okay. Go ahead, sorry.
Karen Smith on Harrison. So I have a couple of different areas I wanted to comment on, but the first was in regards, and I'm having problems following all of these documents, but we're, for the certificates of participation, we're entering into this lease agreement, and I was having problems when I was trying to understand this over the weekend. It may have been clarified this evening, but is this a lease agreement so that that we're entering into for the COP so that we can align with the state statute that says we cannot burden future boards with a current obligation? And if so, I'm having to understand what is it exactly that we're leasing. And did we lease the firehouse when we did that COP? I'm just curious about that. And then in regards to the compensation survey, you know, I attended the Ways and Means. I got there late because I was not able to get off work early to go to that meeting. But I did remember. I thought I heard at the end of the meeting. I'm almost positive I heard at the end of the meeting and I thought that there was going to be a presentation tonight on this because I thought that they had discussed bringing that presentation that she did forward to the full board. So I'm interested in seeing that, and actually had asked Octavia for a copy of that survey. My other comment is in regards, it seems like we were rushing through an awful lot tonight. I was at the Ways and Means Committee where it was discussed that there was going to be a workshop, and I believe it was at a Board of Aldermen it was discussed that there would be a workshop, and there was a meeting scheduled that there was going to be a workshop. And so if you changed and wanted that discussed at tonight's meeting, where all the aldermen alerted to the fact that you were not going to have a workshop and that they needed to get their questions in writing. I know you've talked about in the past that you always wanted everyone to get everything in writing, but then you always were going to do a workshop. And you know, myself personally, I would not have known to. I would have, if you had talked about doing a workshop, I would have assumed that I could bring my questions forward then. So I think from a procedural and a process way, it's very confusing to understand how you expect things to move forward. I know I have been accused by some staff that I don't work in municipal government and I don't understand municipal government, but I actually understand it more than you realize. I have a lot of friends that are in municipal governments, and I know attorneys that have represented municipalities, and they have always told me that you should not pass an ordinance unless your prosecuting attorney is fully comfortable with that ordinance. The prosecuting attorney is the one that needs to stand behind, not the prosecuting attorney, our city attorney, I'm sorry. It was from what I understood from what Frank said, he did not have a chance to review all the changes that were in that code. So I think from a professional standpoint, how we bring these things forward and how you advise your board on what they're responsible for doing needs to be clarified, because that's very, very, very confusing. And in regards to the in regards to the sidewalks, that's my last area, I would like some clarification on what I'm responsible for as a homeowner. I know you all have gone back and forth on this, and if there's an uneven sidewalk and someone trips on that and they're going to sue somebody, who are they going to sue? I didn't put the sidewalks in that are in front of my house. I love that they're there. I think it's a great community asset. It's a great public asset, but I'm not going to take on a public liability if the city's not willing to take on that liability. Recently, our street, the sidewalks were torn up by the water company to replace a water main. When they put it back in, I don't feel that the quality of the sidewalks that were put in were of the same quality that were there that was there before. When I questioned that with the water company, they said that's not my responsibility, that's the city's responsibility, and they're the ones that are responsible if that sidewalk ever has to be replaced, and I needed to back off on that one. So I did. So they told me that I'm not to push that. If I'm responsible for that sidewalk, then I need to be notified of that. Some of my sidewalk may need to come up because I've got an issue that will need to be addressed with a leaky basement. If that sidewalk needs to come up and I'm responsible for it, I don't know that I'm going to put it back in. Thank you.
Matt Saunders, 2326 Park Ridge. I've got to agree with her. You guys are really a confusing group of people. In one part of the meeting, you go against state statute, and then later on you say we have to follow the code. I don't know what standards you use because you change them to however you need. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. You all apologized to us for breaking state statute before, but obviously you don't mean it. That's just kind of a shame. That's a heck of a platform for a mayor, go against state statutes. That's going to look good on a flyer. Also, can I take my sidewalks out tonight? Do I have the right to go home and bust them out? Yeah. I mean, can I do that? Mm-hmm. According to what you just passed? Oh, great. So. Thank you.
Lightning.
Unfinished business for me.
Sure. Well, I want to address one thing first. So the COPs, just so you understand those. When any municipal government issues a COP, governments can't take out traditional loans and like a house and use the house as equity. Under this state statute for a COP, the underlying asset, in this instance, the rec center or the fire department, becomes the underlying asset. It becomes owned by the bondholders, and then the lease payments go back to them. When the bonds are paid off, it's the ownership of that underlying asset goes back to the municipality for $1 or whatever that fee is. So that's the technicality that the state uses in order for municipalities to use COPs. So yes, are we leasing the fire department? Yes. The reality of it is, would a municipality not make their payments and turn that over to the bondholders? The reality is no. So it's just another way of funding municipal projects. And that could be a sewer project, a street project, whatever. Alderman Saunders.
Yeah, but a lot of cities choose to do bond obligations and bigger projects because there's more public input because it goes to the voters.
Well, but then you're putting the burden of the taxes on the homeowners
right.
by a property tax when we don't
right.
need to do that.
I understand.
So.
Okay, and I want to make a motion that section 110.200 of the new code, the Board of Aldermen shall fix the compensation of all officers and employees on an annual basis in connection with adoption of the city's annual budget. I would like to amend that so that it just says all employees. Just employees, not officers, because officers can be elected officials, elected officers. So I am saying that we amend that code to read, the Board of Aldermen shall fix the compensation of all employees on an annual basis. I make that motion.
Question, if I may?
Sure. Well, wait, we need it first, or a second in order.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Alderman Lady.
Now a question. If you go through with this motion and you remove the officers, then when and how do you set that pay? By right, you're telling me that you have no setting of pay?
Officers are employees.
Well,
But I'm just.
forgive me, 3 years ago,
No, you
you
said we
argued
weren't employees.
you argued very
no,
vehemently
no. What I'm
that
trying to-
elected officials aren't employees.
That's what I'm trying to omit from here. So you
So
can
when
have-
do you set their pay?
By state statute, you have to do it by an individual ordinance, not via the budget.
But in order to allocate the funds, you have to do it in the budget.
You still have to do it by a separate ordinance. That's all I'm saying, is for setting the compensation, it's not via the budget, it's actually done by a separate ordinance. It's via the budget for just the employees.
But if you don't have that compensation in the budget, for instance, for 2015, you couldn't allocate the funds because they wouldn't be in the budget. So the board does have to set the every year for the compensation for the elected officials.
They can still appropriate the amount, but that's not how you fix the compensation
Just,
for the officers. For officers, elected officials, you fix it via an ordinance.
okay. My recommendation would be send that back to Ways and Means, and they could discuss and bring a recommendation back to the board, but.
Okay.
Roll call.
I'll remove mine if we send that back.
Okay.
In addition, this new code also, since we're on unfinished business and you never called for a question, but just went ahead and did a roll call, I hadn't finished. You also add new appointed officers to this, which means, once again, the mayor can appoint more additional positions without going through a process, which we've seen before, and other employees were very upset that they didn't even get to apply for a position. There's plenty of things. We actually, even after we discussed this in Ways and Means, the purchasing code, the limit was changed from $2,000 to $10,000 in the new code. The mayor, actually, the qualifications for being mayor is removed from the new code. Well, it's state statute, but still, we removed it. There's a new budget officer, and I'm not quite certain what that new position is for or what it entails. Again, the library, there's several things in there that need to be dealt with. Disposal of property, the same thing, the dollar amount was increased, even though Ways and Means decided against it.
So they did discuss it?
No.
We did discuss it, and we decided to leave it at 2,000, but
Okay,
now
well, I
you
just wanna make sure, 'cause
overrode-
we
you
were-
just
as we're going through.
overrode the work that was done,
Okay.
though. So I'm just saying, the schools, the only school areas are, the school safety areas are in Brentwood Forest, that's it. I mean, there is just so many things in here. Some boundaries are changed where people won't have to be notified. Also, there's some changes in the zoning with setback or yardages, which I think would be important. Had I known, I would have, when I received that email saying that would I like to discuss these with Mike Perry, my answer was I thought that they were board decisions. If that was going to be my only opportunity, I would have appreciated an email telling me that, or at least to type these up in a form that we could discuss. But they're still decisions. They're not just answer this question. They're policy decisions that we need to make.
Your Honor, if I may?
Amelie.
Let me respond, if I may. Yes, there are things in the new code that are not in conjunction to what we had in the old. Those need to be individually addressed. We were asked in the end of January 2014 to put our concerns in writing. We got a reminder at the end of March to get it in, to work with. We tried twice to have discussions. One time we had an hour-long discussion here at the workshop for an hour before the Board of Aldermen meeting, and the last one we specifically asked for a special Board of Aldermen meeting, but we could not get a quorum, we could not handle it. And for the last 2 months, 2.5 months, the Brentwood City Code has not been on the websites pending this board doing something. And realistically, I think we need to do something. Now, I made the request to put it into Ways and Means and go through section by section and get it. Yes, we anticipated looking at each of the different departments doing it, but no feedback came back. So that's the best way we could do it at this point. That's why I made the motion to take it off hold and to get it passed this evening to
I-
work with.
I respectfully disagree. First of
Okay.
all, in my opinion, to take down the old code was irresponsible. I mean, it's not state statute, you don't have to have it up, but there was no reason to take the old code down until this one was adopted. So individuals should have had access to that code. You were the reason that the one workshop didn't work, because you flipped. You
I
were going
didn't
to
flip.
come, and then you weren't going to come. You told me you were going to come, and then you met, and you
Okay,
weren't. So it was
which-
your
what do
vote.
we-
Well,
let-
anyway, I don't care about that.
No,
What
I do
wanna
not
say,
like
though,
being
Andy,
accused of something that I did not do.
You accuse me of things that I didn't do. and
I
you
was
just
here
now
at
answered
that
my
meeting,
questions.
and no one else showed up.
Anyway,
Okay,
that's not true.
end of discussion.
No, excuse
No.
me. I don't want to go about, I won't discuss that particular topic, but I will find the minutes and the notes for you, Andy. But what I wanted to say was, you can say that, but show me where we're writing these questions and bringing them forward. My problem is I don't have a question for the official. I don't need them, Mike Perry, to explain it to me. What I'm saying is they're policy decisions that the board makes. So when you found out that it was increased and I saw your tab to 10,000, you were fine with that. So you go ahead and you let it go. You passed it with changes to the code that you knew we did not want in there. That's what you did. And
Yes, we just passed the code this evening.
and you think that's responsible to pass a law that you don't want and then go back and change it?
It's ridiculous.
Alderman Saunders and the rest of the board, you all received a copy of every single question that I asked Mr. Perry and Ebola back in April. When nobody else responded, that's when private discussions took place.
I don't
Now,
believe
I
got
can't
that email.
individually change the code, but you all wouldn't come and have the discussion. Thus, we're having it now, after we've passed it. Find it odd.
Andy, you could have brought any of those changes together tonight for a vote. And you would have had a board, you had a quorum here to make those changes and pass them. You always do this. You act like that's what your intent, that you went through and you reviewed all of this, but that is not the case, Andy. And you could have brought those changes together because we have to vote to make the changes. And voting it as a whole, and knowing there's things in there that you don't find acceptable, it's just wrong. It's wrong. In
You
my
had the right to
opinion,
vote
it's
no, and the
wrong.
majority of the board voted yes.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I will just clarify the one thing. That one workshop that we were supposed to have, Andy was sitting in your office, Bola, and you told me he decided he wasn't going to attend. Is that correct?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
And again, I mean, if the code book is the most living document the city has. You can look at it and make suggestions to the board to change things. They may be policies and decisions that the board has to make if that's what the board decides to do. But we've gone through this process, and I think the board acted tonight to get this back reinstituted, get us so that we have a legitimate code book. And if we need to make changes, you make changes. That's the process we do every board meeting. It's nothing new. It's the way government works. And is everything in there going to be perfect? No, it wasn't perfect when they passed it 20 years ago either. And you just make the changes. It isn't
No.
that difficult.
You make the
So-
changes because you're bringing forward a change. And all I'm saying is we should have vetted the changes. You bring changes forward for a reason.
Well, and I would contend that we had the opportunity to do that. And again, as a
That's-
board, the
it's
board decided that this is what they wanted to do this evening.
Yeah, it's just like Obamacare. Pass it and then figure out all the problems.
Now that hurt. All right, we'll move on. If I get a motion to go into, I'm sorry, Alderman Lay,
Yes.
new business.
Yes. First of all, on behalf of the Boy Scouts of America, we'd like to thank the city of Brentwood for allowing us again to use the fire bays in the city hall. The Scouting for Food collected 1.8 million cans of food on Saturday through the St. Louis and county area. That's about a 370,000 cans lower than last year. Those of you that did not get your cans picked up or who would like to participate in the Scouting for Food program, the Regions banks in the area will accept canned goods all this week. to work with. But again, thank you very much for letting the Scouts use the facilities to work with. The Ward 3 meeting for the month of November will be Tuesday night, the 24th of November at 7 p.m. up here in the council room.
Okay. Make a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
And second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Do we need to clarify for the reasons?
Oh, yes, thank you. Just for the, personnel and contract negotiations and legal.
Did you make the motion? Who made the motion?
Lee.
Second.
And Andy. Roll call.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
Yes.
Your Honor, point of order, if I may.
Yes.
You did have I'm sorry, you all did withdraw your motion, okay, to send it back to the committee.
Okay. We're going
Where are
to
we
executive
meeting?
session upstairs.
Upstairs.
Resolution 1022, which is approving a tax exempt financing compliance policy for City of Brentwood. When I looked at that, I was thinking it was for the Meridian project. So if I have a motion for resolution 1022.
So moved.
And second? Where's
Second.
Octavia? So that was Lee and Patrick. And all in favor, say aye.
Oh, aye.
All opposed? Motion. Anybody opposed?
I was
Okay.
just going to have Mark give a brief, just what it is. So
Oh, that's fine. Go ahead, Mark.
the public that stayed can.
Okay, so in the fall of 2011, even though on every tax exempt bond issue, there's a tax compliance certificate that sets out all the city's post-issuance tax compliance obligations, the IRS announced in the fall of 2011 that they thought every issuer of tax exempt bonds should have a global, not specific bond issue related, a global policy regarding saying that the city was committed to post-issuance compliance and designating a bond compliance officer, which is the finance director. And so this is, and the city hadn't done.
Okay.
Aye.
Now, if I could, first reading of bill number
5927.
5927, please.
First reading, Bill Number 5927 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an estoppel certificate and agreement relating to the Brentwood Meridian.
Okay. And again, this is for the bank that is refinancing or putting into permanent financing the redevelopment or the property, privately held property of the Meridian project. So, second reading, please.
Second reading, Bill Number 5927 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an estoppel certificate and agreement relating to the Brentwood Meridian.
Thank you. A motion, please. And second?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Alderman Nguyen, second by Alderman Robertson. Roll call, please.
Alderman Harper?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes.
Alderman Tui?
Yes.
Alderman Leahy?
No.
Alderwoman Manister?
Yes.
Alderwoman Saunders?
No.
Okay. All right.
Bill number 5927 is now ordinance number 4589.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're adjourned.